Hello and welcome everybody. I'm Matt from MTG Gaming Bob. Got an interesting video here. It's going to be a deck tech on a deck that is not legal to be played in a normal Commander game. As you could say, why are you doing that? Well, because it's fun. I get to share the interesting deck idea. While you're watching, you better not forget to like, comment, and subscribe to this video. Share it with your friends and all the other fun stuff that happens on the YouTubes. So currently I'm in the Jake and Joel Are Magic's League they have every month. This month is the Kamigawa block plus the new Kamigawa that just came out, Neon Dynasty. And basically you get to pick any commander from, any monocolored commander from the original set has partner. And then obviously if they already have partner from the new set as well. And you're basically able to pick two commanders and then smash them together. So I'm playing Kami of the Crescent Moon and Shizuko, the Caller of Autumn. Normally not legal for commander because neither one of them technically have partner, but the idea was to do a group hug deck because last month I actually placed pretty well. I got second the first week, first the second week, first the third week, and I think third the last week, but that was some pretty unfortunate series of events. Scavenging Ooze completely wrecked my deck, but you know, it happens. And the idea this week, after being, I think I came in 8th place last month, which isn't bad, 8 out of 37 or whatever, not bad at all. But placing as well as I did, I thought I'd be higher up because there's so many extra points other places. I just figured I would build a deck around doing that. So my goal this month, this deck, its whole purpose is to get second place in every match. The whole idea around it is to be so valuable that nobody wants to target me. Nobody wants to kill me. Why would you get rid of the person that's letting you draw extra cards per turn, getting extra mana, countering the things that affect other players but don't affect you, stuff like that, like, you know, saving players by using fogs and stuff like that, because there's alternate point cons that you can get from like saving players. Saving players, you can get half a point. So if you fog somebody and they're about to die, boom, half a point, easy point. Player commander 4 times, should be pretty easy enough. I've got Crystal Shard. I can suicide my commander to replay him to get the extra value for the points there. I do have some alternate win cons, which come to find out that there used to be an extra 2 points for an alternate win con, but for whatever reason this month, of course the month that I actually win with an alternate win con, the only time I win with an alternate win con, they removed those points. Unfortunate. So I actually I got first place in my last game. If you watch the video channel, first place, fun, awesome. But yeah, I'll go through the deck, and you can do a group hug deck like this, but with different commanders, obviously. But just change the commanders, and everything else should be pretty similar if you're in a league like this. But I'll go through the cards and explain why they're in there. So Kami of the Crescent Moon, 2 blue, 1/3. At the beginning of each player's draw step, the player draws an additional card. Great, draw cards, awesome. Then we've got Shizuko, Caller of Autumn, 3 mana for a 2/3. Beginning of each player's upkeep, the player adds 3 green to his or her mana pool. This mana doesn't cause mana burn. Oh, good old days of mana. Until end of turn, this mana doesn't empty from that player's mana pool as phases end. So it's a really, really cool commander here, being able to ramp the game so fast. Our game was done in an hour and 30 minutes. Pretty awesome. It's a very quick game for the first week. The only planeswalker in here at the moment is Jace Beleren for the $100 version. Oh, by the way, this is a $100 budget. Forgot to mention that. $100 budget. Jace Beleren, 3 mana. Each player draws a card. Again, you want to incentivize. You want to make people, they don't want to kill you, you know? So +2, everybody draw a card. Almost never use the -1. Who cares? Unless for some reason it'll make them win the game for some, whatever. And then having the access to the mill isn't terrible, but this Jace might be replaced with a different Jace next week. $50 extra per week. But yeah, Jace is mainly just there for each player draws a card. He's basically just another Howling Mine. Archaeomancer, 4 mana for 1/2, Human Wizard. When enters the battlefield, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. This is just reoccursion, just in case like something gets countered or something in the graveyard that I need. Simple as that. Whether it be a counterspell or a fog or whatever. Body of Knowledge, 5 mana for a star. Power and toughness equals the number of cards in your hand. You have no maximum hand size. The no maximum hand size is one of the main reasons why he's in here, obviously. But then the power and toughness, he's a decent body. Most of the game I had anywhere between 15 cards in hand. So it's a pretty big body. And then whenever damage is dealt to him, take to draw that many cards. Very valuable. Whether it be a blocker or whatnot. Clever Impersonator. This card is basically just in here to copy anything that's really, really crazy that's on the field. say somebody plays a Mirari's Wake. I can play Clever Impersonator and copy that, have a Mirari's Wake as well. Any big, crazy, dumb thing, non-land permanent, whatever it is, anything that's awesome that somebody else has, I can also have. Or if I really care, or if I really want to, I can have it enter the battlefield as like another Howling Mind. So it's just very good card for $2. It's very versatile. Dawn Strider, Fog on a Stick. 2 mana for a 1/1. Discard a card, Fog. Heartwood Storyteller. This one is another one of those cards where you get a lot of value by other players. Nobody wants to kill this because even if they do try to kill it, everybody else gets to draw a card. So the amount of value this brings and the amount of cards that you get to draw, you don't care how many cards your opponents draw. My opponents drew like 30 cards off of me. Didn't matter. I won. And again, my goal is to get second. I don't really want to ever win. That's not the goal, because the goal is, if I'm winning, that means that I'm going to be the target. I don't want to be the target. I want to just coast by. I'm basically just trying to see if I can take advantage of the point system and kind of try to prove that it's flawed. And I think we already know it's flawed, but it's a very difficult system to try to put into place where the points actually matter and they aren't easily gamed. But we'll see. So yeah, 3 mana for 2/3. Whenever a player casts a non-creature spell, each of that player's opponents may draw a card. Mystic Snake. This card's amazing. So it's a counter spell that's on an ETB, which is really, really good because it's around some certain mechanics, like taxing of non-creature spells, extra mana, or for instance, like a Hinata. There's a lot of Hinatas around. This gets around Hinata because it does target something, but it doesn't target anything when you cast it. It targets battlefield. It gets around the Hinata tax, which is. And then I have Crystal Shard in here to bounce it, to have like basically just not an infinite loop of counter spells, but basically 2 counter spells a turn. The first time I cast it, and after that it's just a counter spell. Pretty nice. Noble Benefactor, 3 mana for a 2/2. If he were to be put into the graveyard from play, each player searches his or her library for any 1 card, put that card in their hand, and draw, or shuffle your library. So it's a tutor, which is great. Tutor on a stick. It's only 25 cents, and again, I don't really care what they get. My goal, most of the time when I tutor, is going to be to get a counterspell to prevent the things that are going to kill me. If they don't want to kill me, cool. I'll just counter the things that really matter. I might not always get a counterspell. Like this last game, I got a Venture's Journey. Great card. Root Weaver Druid. This card, it's okay. When I first read it, I thought that I would get something as well as if they did something, then I would get something. So for instance, I thought I got to draw first, but if get a land first. But it turns out it's when it enters the battlefield, each opponent may search their library for up to 3 basic land cards. They each put one of those cards onto the battlefield tapped under my control, and the rest on the battlefield tapped under their control. What did I do? Okay, I hit it. Good. So if nobody does this, then it's just 3 mana for a 2/1, which is really, really bad. The odds of nobody doing that are pretty low, so I think it's fine. But it is a risky card, and it could be removed for something better. But we'll see. I did want some creatures, so I'm not just susceptible just to be alpha'd. Although I am playing Turbo Fog, basically. Triskaidekaphile. Interesting card here. I won with this card this last game, our first week. Yeah, nobody had an answer. Well, the one guy had an answer, but then I countered it. And because his kill spell... I had a Heartwood Storyteller. Because his kill spell was cast, I got to draw the card that replaced the card that I needed for Triskaidekaphile to then win, basically. Replace the card that I used. But yeah, no maximum hand size, 2 mana for a 1/3, which is already a decent body for its size. At the beginning of your upkeep, if you have exactly 13 cards in your hand, you win the game. And then it has 4 mana, draw a card. Surprisingly enough, the 4 mana, draw a card, when I'm playing a deck that does a lot of ramping, it's not too terribly hard with things like Temple Bell and things that have like on-demand draw, where I can manipulate how many cards I'm drawing when I need to. It's just really, really nice to have. And I can leave mana open for a counter spell up until it gets to my turn, and then I can draw a bunch of cards with the 4 mana, draw a card. So it's actually pretty good, obviously. Winning the game is great, so that was always nice. Veteran Explorer, this guy's great. 1 mana for a 1/1. When it dies, each player may search their library for up to 2 basic land cards, put them on a battlefield, not tapped. Then each player who searched the library this way shuffles. It's pretty insane. what I kind of want for cards like the Noble Benefactor and the Veteran Explorer, and I kind of want a sack outlet. I don't know that I really need it, but I kind of want things to like. I don't want to have to depend on anybody else to, but it, you know, it's already happened, so it's probably fine. Like, people want it to die because then it's the free stuff. Same thing with Noble Benefactor. Wandering Archaic. This card was pretty valuable. The way that it copies is my copies resolve before theirs do because of how it stacks. So a lot of the times I'll just be like, I won't target your stuff, so you have no reason not to let me copy this, and I just get free value. I don't think a single person didn't let me not cast it. Like I got a Profane Tutor. I got a I forgot what it was, but it was like destroy target creature or a artifact, and it was like 3 red and X, and he did it for 4, I believe, because it was a Hinata player. Did it for 4, and I was able to copy it for 4, and he didn't care. So I got free 4 permanents because I just targeted my own stuff. Because the one guy played something that saves his things, which, and if they were to die, they phase out basically, and they come back in the battlefield. So I just got a bunch of free stuff. It was a really kooky game, pretty fun. I'd highly advise watching it. It was a great time. But yeah, this just gives you a lot of value, and you can make a lot of deals. Just like I won't counter your stuff if you do this. I don't, as long as you don't affect me, I don't care what you do. And that's true. Like, you know, like I'm never lying when I say this stuff. So if they go to like Rampant Growth, I get the Rampant. It's pretty great. Kill spells, you take care of multiple threats. All kinds of great stuff happen. Extra turns, why not? Take extra turns. Cultivate, because it is a blue-green dex. Might as well run things like Cultivate and Rampant Growth and such. But yeah, Cultivate. 3 mana, you get to search for 2 basic lands, 1 on the battlefield tapped and 1 into your hand. Curse of the Swine. Curse of the Swine is really good. It's exile, which is great. And then because I have so much mana, it's not too difficult to take care of any threats we need. Because it's multiple exiles. Sure, they get a boar. Who cares? We're playing Turbo Flog. It doesn't. But yeah, Curse the Swine. Exiles X target creatures. For each creature exiled this way, they get a 2/2 green boar creature token onto the battlefield. Pretty valuable. Devastation Tide. 5 mana. Return all non-land permanents to their owner's hand. This includes yourself, so this one's kind of rough. This is going to get replaced with Cyclonic Rift, but Cyclonic Rift is like $30, and this is $70. So this is like a last-ditch resort. I need to reset the board. Something people are popping off. This is like the last-ditch resort. Take care of everything. Next up, we got Minds Aglow. This card's pretty bonkers. I didn't get to cast it today, but for 1 blue, sorcery, join forces. Starting with you, each player may pay any amount of mana. Each player draws X cards, where X is the total amount of mana paid this way. I mean, even if you cast it for just the blue, which is, I mean, I don't. You'd probably still want to cast it for a little bit, but there might be people that cast that like they want to draw cards, so they just use their mana. So the only downside with this card, it's a little strange. So if you tap it for a blue and pay nothing, you could probably get a couple cards. But if you say you tap it for 3 and you pay your blue and you tap 3, everybody's gonna draw 3 cards. People, they might not spend mana. You know, they might just be like, oh, well, I'm drawing 3 cards for free. Not gonna bother. Why would I give you more free cards? I'm not gonna bother. And I'm just like, yeah, we'll see. We'll see how it plays out. That's kind of how I think in my head. If somebody plays Minds Aglow, I don't know. I think I probably would still put more mana into. I guess it depends. We'll see how it plays out, but even still, 3 mana to draw 2 cards isn't terrible. Basically, just Oversimplify. This is a board wipe that still leaves people with something, but it's a way to like kind of reset the board if it gets too out. I can't handle. It's rid of, and it exiles all of them, which is really, really handy. They get a 0/0 green and blue fractal creature token, and a number of 1/1 counters equal to the total power of creatures they control that were exiled this way. So, I mean, most of the time, it's not going to give you a really, really big thing, but it might give everybody else a really, really big thing. And if it takes care of some like crazy stuff on the board, most people probably won't care. And then it only leaves you with having to deal with 1 creature. If they do try to turn it towards you, you have a blocker. And also, there's a ton of other things to like fogs and bounces. Not too big of a deal. This is just take care of things that get out of hand. Rampant Growth for some ramp, 2 mana. Search your library for a basic land, put on the battlefield, tap, shuffle your library. Raven Form, another form of removal. It has Foretell for a blue. Well, 2 mana and blue, so it's just the same mana cost, but it only becomes a blue. I wish this was an instant. It's not great, to be honest. It's so awkward as a sorcery, to be quite honest. Like, even when you foretell it, you're just kind of like, you can only cast it on your turn. It's lame. But yeah, exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 1/1 bird flyer token thing, which is fine. It's an exile, and it's a target creature. Basically, the best removal you can. Tempted Discovery. This card is nuts. I did not realize that it was any land, but it's 4 mana sorcery, Tempting Offer. This is the great thing. You still get to do it for yourself. Search your library for a land card, put on the battlefield. A land card not tapped, boom, any land on the battlefield. Then, each opponent may search the library for a land card and put it on the battlefield. For each opponent who searches a library this way, search your library for a land card, put it on the battlefield. Then each player who searched a library this way shuffles it. So in my previous game that we just played, I cast this and everybody went and got a land. So I got 4 land for Tempted Discovery. So 4 mana, 4 land for 4-drop sorcery. Pretty good, and it's for any land, so you can get things. You can get some pretty good lands. I don't run that many in this budget deck, this budget version, but as the time goes on, this will become way more valuable. Time Reversal, 3 mana, 2 blue. That's a sorcery. Each player shuffles his or her hand and graveyard into his or her library, then draws 7 cards. Exile Time Reversal. So this card's in here just in case I deck myself. So it's nice to just have. It refills the hand. It gets, like, if somebody goes and tutors for something and they don't play it, and I know what they have, or basically if I know they have a threat that I need to take care of in their hand, this is a way to ditch and shuffle it all back in. It's a way to refill my hand if for some reason I'm too low on cards, which is almost never going to happen. Basically, it's mainly in there for not decking myself, which I don't know how important that is because the games go pretty quick. Ather Eyes, this is just 4 mana instant. Return all attacking creatures to their owner's hands. This is kind of one of those, like, the fog, but it also, like, could kill tokens and stuff like that if they're, permanents. Well, tokens are still permanents, but if they're not, like, a permanent when they leave, basically. And also, it puts a player back pretty heavily. If they're targeting me, I can just bounce everything back to their hand, slow them down a crap ton. It's basically like a super cheap Cyclonic Rift that only hits creatures. I don't know. It's a pretty cheap card for only 83 cents, and it could save people, and that's one of the way to get points is to safeguard people. Ather Spots is almost the exact same thing, except it's a little better. Instead of putting them back to their hand, this you either put on top or bottom of their library, which like putting everything on top of the library to have to let it draw back through that could be brutal. 5 mana for an instant. That creature owner puts it on top or bottom. Pretty. Beast Within, just standard removal. 3 mana instant. Destroy target permanent. Its controller creates a 3/3 beast. This is just any permanent, which is fantastic. If you have any major threats. Capsize. 3 mana with buyback of 3 colorless. You can pay it when you cast a spell, and then you're able to put it into your hand instead of the graveyard. Return target permanent to its owner's hand. So this is just a pretty consistently, I'll say, degenerate card. Being able to just bounce things over and over and over again. You're ramping so much most of the time that the buyback cost is going to be pretty easily paid, but it hasn't come into play yet. And then if worse comes to worse, I could always capsize, then get it back later on with. Might find a few other ways to like get cards back. Oh, there's a land we'll get to that also does puts it back on the top. Cast and Mist, it's an instant. 1 colorless and a green. It has buyback, sacrifice a land. You can sacrifice a land when you cast the spell, and then it goes back to your hand instead of the graveyard. Creatures deal no combat damage this turn. So, pretty expensive fog, $7.36. But because we're drawing so many cards, we're almost always going to hit our land drop. And some of the things in the deck gives us more land drops per turn. And I think I'm going to try to put more of those in there. Azusa, stuff like that. Because I want to ramp as much as possible to have as much mana available to counter. And I was somewhat mana restricted, strangely enough, even though I had quite a lot of mana, but I wanted to keep doing stuff. More mana. So Cast and Miss is just a really, really nice insurance policy to just constantly being able to fog if need be. Counterspell, pretty simple. Just 2 blue, counter target spell, instant. Disallow, counterspell basically. But the nice thing about disallow is it's counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. So having this to just prevent a win con right off the rip, something like Felidar Sovereign, for instance, that goes on the stack. You can counter that, and then in this league, I would get a point for saving 2 people. Maybe even save. It might be a 1.5 because I'm saving myself. I don't know. I think it might just only be just 1 point, but we'll see. The point system is, you know, in process of, you know, kind of fleshed out. Dream Fracture, it's a counter target spell. Its controller draws a card, you draw a card, you know, no problem. Evacuation, return all creatures to their owner's hands. This card is a lot better than most because it doesn't require them to be attacking. It does hit our own creatures, but I only ran 11 in the entire deck, so it's not that big a deal. Fog, the most iconic fog there is. It's just 1 green, prevent all combat damage. Foil, this one's a really sneaky good card. I actually think this is probably better than maybe most people think. But it's 4 mana. You may, it's basically just a counterspell, but you may discard an island card and another card rather than pay this spell's Manicott. That's pretty strong. It's a free counterspell, and the amount of cards that we draw, the odds of us having an island and another card to just ditch for this. It is a 3-for-1, but you're only going to ever do this if it's like a dire need. You have other counterspells that are better. You can just pay its actual mana cost, which is fine. So this is a sneaky little thing. They see you're tapped out. They might think their wide, their shields are down from us, and all of a sudden you play foil, and okay, and it's only 40 cents. You know, it's basically a worse Force of Will, but for 40 cents, it's pretty insane. Forbid. This one is a kind of a similar situation. It's a 3-for-1, just 3 mana, counter target spell, but it has buyback. Choose and discard 2 cards. This one doesn't require the island, which is nice. It does still take the mana, so it's not as good as foil. But like I said, we're drawing so many cards that we're going to have enough to discard, and if I need to buy it back, it's not. Cross Grip, pretty simple. 3 mana, instant, split second. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. There's a couple things that gets past split second, but very little things. Something like Manifest, I think, can be flipped up, or Morph. Yeah, Morph. I don't know about Manifest, but Morph for sure. So there are some things that can get around it, but I don't know if there's any Morph artifacts or enchantments. But yeah, Cross Grip is just needed for stopping something or getting rid of something. Lull is a counterspell, or I'm sorry, not a fog that also has cycling. Cycling could be like if you have enough fogs in your hand where you have a constant miss and you just don't need the lull, you could cycle it away. Probably should have done that this past game. Moment's Peace, 2 mana, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn, and then has flashback, prevent all combat damage that will dealt this turn. That's from the graveyard. Also could be one of those things where they don't notice that, like if you don't have a fog in hand but your fog's in the graveyard, you can fog from that. Nature's Claim. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. Its controller gains 4 life. Removal. You don't really care how much life they gain because you're most likely going to be winning. You're mainly going for second place. So again, the life total, whatever. Plus it's just a good removal anyway. Reality Shift. 1 mana. Or 1 colorless, 1 blue. Instant. Exile target creature. Its controller manifests the top card of their library. The manifest is kind of like whatever, because a lot of times you're going to hit like a land or an artifact or whatever. You're almost rarely ever going to hit a creature unless they're like a super creature heavy deck. But either way, you're exiling something for very cheap that is probably more important than the thing that they're going to manifest. So not that big. And Resculpt. 1 colorless, 1 blue. Instant. Exile target artifact or creature. Its controller creates a 4/4 blue and red elemental creature token. Another exile instant spell that can hit an artifact or a creature, and you don't really care about them getting a 4/4 because it's a vanilla creature. All you care about is exiling whatever degenerate creature playing that it hurts you. Super cheap. Respite. Creatures deal no combat damage this turn, and you gain 1 life for each attacking creature. This one's a really good one because your life total is somewhat precious as far as You know, if people are trying to attack you, this could be a pretty big life swing. Or if they're attacking somebody else and you want to save them, but then also gain life, it's just a super good card. Respite's pretty great. Yeah, it's a fog and in life. Rewind, great counterspell. It's a counterspell that untaps 4 lands. So if you have like the bounce lands, it can be a net mana gain technically, but I don't actually have any. So at the moment, this is just in here as like a normal counterspell that's kind of basically keeps your shield. Vision Skeins, 1 colorless, 1 blue. Instant, each player draws 2 cards. Again, you don't really care how many cards your opponents are drawing, all cards that you're drawing. Just so you have enough answers for everything. Really crazy. Arcane Signet, just Crystal Shard. This card's great. It allows you to play your commander multiple times. In this league, if you play your commander 4 times, either one of them, you get a half a point. So if you play it 4 times within the game, the goal for this, mainly, is bounce your commander, replay from your hand. It's only a 2 mana cost commander, so for 3 mana, you can make sure that you get your casts in. Now, I didn't get it this past game because I thought that there was an alternate win con still. Normally, the last few months have been an alternate win con. You get 2 extra points. First place gets 4th. You get 2 extra points for alternate win con. That's 6 points. That's pretty freaking good, right? Well, apparently they took away the alternate win con. So instead of 6 points, I got 4 points. Didn't get the alternate win con. But I didn't get the half a point for commanders, which I would have just delayed a turn to play my commander twice. But, you know, I did get MVP, I got first place, and I got alternate, or no, not alternate. Yeah, that's it. Either way, still a good amount of points. But Crystal Shard's in here to bounce the commander. Not only that, it's to catch people off guard. If they tap out for something, you can play the Crystal Shard and then bounce it and then time walk them. Depending on if it's a big thing or not. You can... It really forces. It's almost a tax on everybody's creature that they always have to leave 1 mana up to make sure that they don't lose something or get something bounced. And it has a really good combination with Mystic Snake. Mystic Snake is a creature that when it enters the battlefield counters a target spell. And you can bounce this to yourself, and you choose not to pay the 1 mana, bounce it back to your hand, and then you can recast Mystic Snake to counter. So it's basically a nice little combo loop between Crystal Shard and Snake, being able to have access to a counter spell at all times as long as you have a Mystic in the battlefield. Font of Mythos, 4 mana, artifact. At the beginning of each player's draw step, that player draws 2 additional cards. Fantastic. Again, you don't care how many cards your opponents are drawing. All you care about is drawing your cards. Howling Mind, 2 mana at the beginning of each player's draw step. If Howling Mind is untapped, that player draws an additional card. There is ways to like tap this down and then have it only untapped during your turn so that you're the only one who draws the cards. But again, you don't care about how your opponents are drawing. You care that you have enough answers and ways to get extra points in the format. So it is very specific to the format. Otherworld Atlas, 4 mana. You can tap it, put a charge counter on Otherworld Atlas, or each player draws a card for each charge counter on Otherworld Atlas. You can charge it up a few times and then just start drawing cards. Most of the time in playtesting, at the very least, I've basically only put like 2 counters on it, and then I just tap it to draw 2 cards whenever I need. You don't need to go too crazy with Otherworld Atlas. I don't know. I guess you could charge it up a few times for turns you don't need a card that turn or whatever. Or maybe if you don't have an unlimited hand size, if you don't draw any of your unlimited hand size, you don't want to have this be too crazy. So either way, a way to just draw cards. Pyxis of Pandemonium. This card, 1 colorless artifact. Tap it. Each player exiles the top card of his or her library face down. Then you can pay 7, sacrifice Pyxis of Pandemonium. Each player turns face up all cards he or she owns exiled with Pyxis of Pandemonium. Then puts all permanent cards from them onto the battlefield. So, this is just a fun card to just make the game. Basically. Again, I don't care about winning. I care about getting second. So, Pyxis of Pandemonium is just basically when you put it out there, just tapping it. Once I get about 5 to 6 things that are exiled, I'll just pop it off and have some fun. A lot of times it hits like enchantments and artifacts. It hits like Howling Minds and enchantments that are really, really good. And I don't really run very many creatures, so that's not that big a deal. But the only downside, if it starts removing things that I care about, if it starts removing like Cyclonic Rift or the counterspells or Mystic Snake, I guess Mystic Snake's permanent, so that's fine. But because I run so many sorceries and instants, it could be a card that could be removed. I actually, now that I explain it more, in the next budget, the $150 budget, I might remove it because it is kind of risky. Unless I put like a what is it, Soul Guide Lantern or what? There's a lantern that you can view the top of everybody's deck. You can actually like kind of see what's being removed, but I don't know. That's a bit reliant on having both of those cards on the field. So I don't know. This card could be removed. I could see it being a flex spot, but it is fun. If you just don't care and you just want to like tap it, exile a card, and then just do that until you have like 5 or 6 cards exiled, and then just crack it and see what you get. I mean, you know, it's kind of fun. Soul Ring, just 1 mana ramp. Temple Bell. This is a Howling Mind that has a tap, so 3 colorless. Each player draws a card. Temple Bell is really, really nice because of cards like Triskaidekaphile, where you need to be able to control when you draw your card. You want to make sure you draw the 13th card before your upkeep. So, Temple Bell like this is really nice. Plus, you can do it at the end of everybody else's turn so that you get the best value. It's like the best value Howling Mind. Because Howling Mind, you don't actually get to do till your next turn goes around. So a lot of the things that we do, like Kami, Howling Mind, Font of Mythos, everybody else gets the benefit before you do. So in theory, somebody could be, you know, a degenerate person and like wait until everybody draws a card or wait until they draw the 2 cards and then kill it. But a lot of times they just like, oh, I get to draw extra cards. Cool. So a lot of times they won't do that. They're probably safe. And of course, you're playing counterspell if need be. Thought Vessel. This is a really, really good mana rock. 2 mana for 1 colorless, and it has no maximum hand size built into it. Super, super important because we do draw a lot of cards. Adventurer's Journal. This is another one. You have no maximum hand size, and at the beginning of your upkeep, you gain 1 life for each card in your hand. On average, you'll have, like I said, anywhere between 6 to 15 cards or more. So you're gaining 6 to 15 life per turn. That's pretty good. And it has the no maximum hand size. Abundance. This card is insane. So 2 green, 2 colorless, enchantment. If you would draw a card, you may instead choose land or non-land, and reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a card of the chosen kind. You put that card into your hand and put all other cards revealed this way onto the bottom of your library. This is a pretty good card considering it allows you to manipulate every draw you get. Your normal draw for turn, your Kami, that's 2. You can go land, non-land if you need a land, if you ever. You can manipulate how you draw, and you can guarantee you hit a land every turn. You need to choose land at least one of those triggers. And then if you have like Font Out or Temple Bell or whatever, every single draw you get to choose. It's absolutely backbreaking for only $1, and it's just Arcane Ascension, another pretty insane card. It takes a little bit to come online, but if it does ever come online, there's almost no way you lose. It's just 1 mana or 1 blue and 2 colorless enchantment at the beginning of each end step each. So you can, like I said, Temple Bell, being able to draw multiple cards per turn, you have the ability to try to manipulate and get that going for Archmage Ascension. Well, if you drew 2 or more cards this turn, you may put a quest counter on Archmage Ascension. As long as Archmage Ascension has 6 or more quest counters on it, if you would draw a card, you may instead search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, then shuffle your library. So yeah, if you ever have to draw, no matter what it is, if you have 6 on this, just tutor. You know, pretty good. Dictate of Crufix. This is basically a flashed Howling Mind. You can flash it into the end of the person before you. If you really want to get the best value, you just draw additional card. 3. Imprison in the Moon, very good removal in Commander. 1 blue, 2 colorless, enchantment aura. Enchant creature, land, or planeswalker. Enchanted permanent is a colorless land with taps add mana, and it loses all other card types and abilities. Putting this on somebody's commander is brutal because they don't really have a way to, unless they have a way to like sack the land or destroy the land or destroy the enchantment, their commander just gone, just completely removed from the game. Basically, it's very hard to get rid of whenever your stuff gets imprisoned. Pretty rough. So good card, only for 59 cents. Super good. Rites of Flourishing, another one of those group hug cards where everybody gets to draw cards and play additional land every turn for 3 green. 3 colors and 2 colors, green. Pretty good card. Sandworm Convergence. This is one of the win cons. The deck does try to win. Triskaidekaphilia was one win con, which it actually happened. Sandworm Convergence. This one, it's 8 mana. Pretty expensive, but it is an enchantment that says creatures with flying can't attack you or planeswalkers you control. Okay, pretty good. And then at the beginning of your end step, create a 5/5 green worm creature token. So as long as somebody doesn't kill it instantly, you're paying 8 mana for a 5/5. But if they don't kill it, any flyers can't attack you. Got a 5/5 dude on the ground, and eventually you'll win the game with just the number of 5/5 worms. Fairies Tutelage, 2 colorless and a blue, enchantment. When Teferi's Tutelage enters the battlefield, draw a card, then discard a card. Then whenever you draw a card, target opponent mills 2 cards. This is another one of those pseudo-alternate win cons. You can mill somebody because you're drawing, on average, 4 to 6 cards per turn. So if they're also drawing 4 to 6 cards per turn and you're milling them 2 cards per turn, that's going to blow through their deck pretty quick. So early on, this card could be pretty insane. But it might put a target on you, so you have to be careful. The whole idea is to not have a target on you. Wilderness Reclamation. This card is pretty nutty. For 3 colorless and a green, it's enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, untap all lands you control. Okay, that's pretty solid. Yeah. Wizard class. You have no maximum hand size. This is important to have for jerseys. Just when you play, just have no maximum hand size. And then having the ability to level it up and draw 2 cards is awesome. And then this kind of matters whenever you draw a card, put a 1 counter on target creature you control, because you are, like I said, you're drawing 4 to 5 cards every turn on average. So being able to pump your stuff is not bad. Again, you are trying to win the game eventually, or you're trying to get second. So just having enough like defense to stay alive is important as well. Then if you sneak in a win, yeah, that's great. Then finally, the lands. Command Tower, tough. Exotic Orchard, tough. They tap for colorless, colored mana. It runs a lot of basics. I think I'm running like 28 basics because of the budget. It runs like 12 or 13 forests. I think it runs like 20 islands. It runs Mystic Sanctuary, which is really nice because it is an island, which is important. And also, when it enters the battlefield, it enters the battlefield tapped unless you control 3 or more other islands. And also, when it enters the battlefield untapped, you may put target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to the top of your library. So it gets back something that if you played before and you need to have access to it, you can put it on top, and then you can Temple Bell, draw it, or pretty good. Yavimaya Coast, this is just a really, really cheap dual land. It does a little damage to you if you ever tap it for that colored mana, but if you don't need to, then it's just a colorless. Pretty great. And that's it. So that's the deck. Like, again, this is just a very big group huggy deck, and it really removes the target from your back from all the things you're benefiting your opponents. It was so easy in this previous game to just like talk people out of killing my stuff just because I'm like, I'm helping you. Why would you do that? Like you convince them that like you're just there for, you know, well, again, the goal is to be second. So you just have to, whoever wants to be first, they just have to fight it out between each other. There was like 3 or 4 times where somebody could have targeted something I had, like a Triskaidekaphilia. They could have gotten rid of it and I could have done nothing about it. But they didn't because I talked them out of it, because I'm just like, well, I'm not going to target the spell that I copy. I'm not going to target your stuff, so you don't have to target mine. I'm like, oh, okay. They just don't. It's very easy to just like kind of like politic your way to the win with just crazy weird things. So I don't know. It's a pretty fun deck. It was actually one of the funnest the games that I think we've had so far. Everybody was drawing like 4 to 5 cards a turn. Everybody was like popping off, playing their lands, playing tons of cards. Like nobody got screwed because they all had enough cards in hand. Like people had like 15, 20 cards in hand. It was crazy. And even though they had 15 to 20 cards in their hand, guess what? I won with Triskaidekaphilia because nobody had an answer to it. One guy had a kill spell and I countered it. Then I won. Pretty great. Basically your typical Turbo Fog deck. And then I'll do an update on the extra $50 when I do it. So the link will be in the description below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you made it this far. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.